I'm going to tie a little hopper pattern for you. This is a little bit smaller hopper pattern than the Hopper Juan. I'm calling it the Juanna Be, kind of as the Juanna Be Hopper Juan. So what I've done already is I've started out with my 70 denier thread UTC and 24.99 SPBL hook, size 10. It's a little bit on the larger size. You can drop down to 12s and 14s, but switch to this hook because it's got a wide gap, and tying it just the same as I do the Hopper Juan. What you got to do is you got to get that and pierce that foam, get it right in the center, and pierce the foam, bring it up, and then start off just like we normally would with a regular hopper. So I put a good layer of thread on there, and what I'm doing is I'm getting it pretty far back into that bend of that hook for that first segment. Bring it up, and again I'm using UTC 70 on this. The 140 is a little bit thick, and since you have less space to work with on the hook shank, don't want to crowd it with thread. A little bit of super glue right on top there. Another brown layer. Oops, and that's the problem with the 70. But with the super glue, everything's sandwiched in there, so it's not going to come out. It's glued on there, so it shouldn't be too much of an issue. Okay, just cut that off. Sneak in between. Again, you got to find your you got to figure out what's your segments on this, since we're dropping one, and so we're going to have 1, 2 be in the middle, and then 3 being up here. So we got to kind of split it. Okay, and again with the 70, you got to be a little gentle on it. But that super glue will help hold everything together. Just kind of sandwiches everything together. So come back and clean up that thread that's hanging on the back end. Okay, come up here again. A few wraps, and we got to cut that off. Come in here and squeeze that up as close as possible and clip. Again, I have those little nubs, is what I call them. Trim that while I'm back here. Clip those little nubs, and then cover it with that flat thread. If you have to unwind it, you can. But we want something, we want to cover this up as best possible. Okay. Now again, a little bit of glue right there, just to hold everything together. Not too much, you don't want it oozing out the sides. And then a couple wraps there, just to hold it down. That glue's going to help secure it. Hop back up on the next segment, just like that. And this is where everything's going to go. If you want to, we skipped the underwing on this pattern. It's just too much bulk on it. You can put some crystal flash in there. Just put a little bit. Couple wraps there. Okay. And then deer hair, elk hair. On this one I like the deer hair. It compresses a little bit better. It's not quite as thick as the elk hair. And just lay that in there a little bit longer than the body, just to give it a full wing. You can see it compresses a little bit better than, say, elk hair on this pattern. Once we put the hair on, just clip all the butts off. All that hair. If your crystal flash is long, you can cut it. You don't have to. I'm just going to cut it just a little bit shorter there. Makes everything look a little bit better. Now, as far as the legs go, we can add those. You can do different materials for those. You can do just regular brown legs or tan barred, whatever. It doesn't really matter. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to get a tan barred, just like I normally would use, and put those in. Again, you can do all kinds of different things. You can knot them and put them in there if you want. I'm just going to throw in one set on each side here. And just to get a couple legs on there. Once you do that, what I like to do is get that glue and put it not only on top but also in those butts. and that just basically locks everything in there. And then bring this back. You can stretch it a bit since it's going to be a little bit thicker, and put a couple wraps on it. Again, that thread's not too strong, so just a couple wraps. That foam will, or that glue will hold that foam down. Trim those if you want, just at an angle. Make sure your legs are still on there. And then with your material, I like to use, on the regular one, I like to use 4 strands. This being a little bit smaller, I'm going to drop down to 3 strands, just so it's not so big up on top. And cut those so that they're even. And then just lay it right up on top. And do that again. Make a clean cut. And then lay that right up on top there. Again, just a few wraps. What I'm going to do now, instead of just whip finishing, I'm just going to get some more of that glue, coat my thread, and then make sure your legs and everything's out of the way. And it has glue on there. See right there, I'm going to wrap that around, and that's just going to seep in there and hold everything together. Come up here, cut that, fan it out. Make sure your legs are at the right angle. Cut those short. These rear legs should be a little bit longer than the body. And then once you do that, you can pull this and cut it, and that should lock in there with that super glue. It shouldn't come out at all. So this is again a size 10 on a $24.99 SPBL hook. It's a real short shank hook, but it's got that big wide gap there, and it should allow for a better hooking up than, say, your regular, like a TMC 100 hook. I got one right here, I'll show you. It opens up that gap quite a bit, so you won't lose as many fish. So here's here's one on just a standard dry fly hook. You can see that gap is a lot bigger and should allow more fish to be hooked and landed rather than hooked and pulled out of their mouth. So there you have it. It's the Juanna Be Hopper Juan, size 10.